the moment, established science tells us, from what we can gather in terms of the modality of that understanding, is that the universe came into existence some 13.8 billion years ago.
Yeah.
So by coming into existence, there was a time when it was not.
That makes sense.
Fantastic. Then what we understand is that from an absence of absolutely everything conceivable and anything and everything conceivable, then a universe can come into existence. So something which begins to everything that...
That's not quite true. You're saying from an absence of anything.
Yes.
There may have been something there, but it didn't.
Precisely. That's what I'm honing in on, actually, you see.
Okay.
So what we're actually saying, I'm just trying to show to you the absurdity of the belief that an immaterial, unconscious with an entity without any will is the argument presented, if you do present the argument from an atheistic perspective, that the universe came into existence. What that is, they cannot even define. So what we say as a matter of philosophy and science is that something that essentially, everything that begins to exist has a cause, except for the only one primary cause. Otherwise, we have an infinite past chain of events that go on forever, and hence we wouldn't come into the present, because we cannot traverse infinity. Infinity cannot be traversed. So if you put one into infinity, or if you put one into infinity, it doesn't add to it. So in essence, the argument would be, if then a person...
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's a very philosophical point.
Yes, thank you. Sorry for going off on the rambling on a bit.
No, but if you add one to something, it does increase.
In theory, I mean, by conceptually, yes, but not in practicality. It's a very subtle distinction.
Okay, but
because
infinity is so large that, you're adding a tiny drop in an enormous ocean.
Well,
but you're adding a drop.
Yeah, but in infinity, by its very, by its very juncture, it's infinite. It's endless. Yeah. So what we then say, but just by reasoning, that it makes no sense. Otherwise, if we have a past infinite chain of events, then we will never come into the present. That's the argument held against, which is a very powerful argument against infinite regression, that it goes on forever, and then by what we understand hence is that we do not come into the present. So then what does that leave us? You seem a bit uncertain.
I'm just trying to think that through.
So if we get a past series of infinite chain of events that goes on forever, there would never be a starting point in which we would come to the present.
But we know that this universe, as far as we can tell, started 13.7 or 13.8 million years ago.
Yes.
We don't know what happened before that.
We don't know, no.
Time may have had no meaning, no relevance.
Absolutely.
No nothing.
Nothing.
No idea.
Yeah.
Something may have caused this universe to come into being. But we just don't know.
Okay, but
we just don't know.
But I'm giving you good reason by eliminating the other possibilities, you see. So just think about this again. Let's just think about it very slowly.
Okay.
I'll try to repeat it very slowly.
Yeah.
Essentially, an argument that you'll have to present that you'll be left with no alternative than to say that a universe has come essentially from a unconscious, immaterial being who would have had the what you call a non-faculty of creation. So it makes sense that whatever is the will factor is a very important point to note here, you see. That, for example, whoever made the first mobile phone, he willed it, didn't he? He didn't simply just pop into existence.
But that is our experience of reality. That's our experience.
Yes.
And so that's how we try and answer questions which we don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
We try and impose our understanding on them.
Yeah.
But we don't know what happened before the Big Bang. We don't know if anything created the Big Bang. We just have no idea.
But I think it's that.
And so we're trying to put answers on these things which make us feel content or happy.
Yeah.
And give us a purpose and give us a meaning.
Well, from a previous understanding going back nearly 200 years ago, an eternal universe. The known understanding was that the universe is just a brute fact. However, when the relevant Edwin Hubble telescope and the red heat shift, understood that there was a backdated understanding of how the red shift heat moved in a particular manner. It came from a singular point. This is how scientists deduce now the most plausible model of the beginning of the universe.
Yeah.
Now, just thinking about this again,
Okay.
so it's the absence of everything. We're talking about time, matter, space, energy, absolutely everything we have an absence of. So that it's what we're atheists are essentially saying, it's an inanimate entity which has got no will, which makes no sense whatsoever.
No.
What is this? So
I
what we
see what you're saying.
Yes.
I see what you're saying.
Excellent.
I don't know that. I mean, am I right in saying that scientists wouldn't agree that the universe came from nothing?
Yeah, so because scientists, what they say, someone like Lawrence Krauss, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, right? He's an eminent scientist who was trying to make this proposition that particles can come in and out of existence, which he was trying to show something in effect can come out of nothing. But when you read his book, there is actually already elements in place which allow these particles to come in and out. Yeah. So it's not actually nothing; it's rather something which you've appreciated.
Yeah.
So hence, what we're saying, there has to be something always eternal in order to put the universe in motion. Otherwise, and obviously it goes into the realm of the metaphysical.
Yeah.
You see what I got
you now. Yeah.
Good man.
Okay,
So then what we say further to that, once we establish that by eliminating the other possibilities, like a universe from nothing, just came into existence, no will, no consciousness, and then we look at the other possibility that so the Quran, for example, says, Allah says, what we believe is our creator. Did the universe create itself? Which is impossible. So what we're already saying, there was already something called the universe, and then it created itself, suggested that it must have had a will to create, and we know it would be inanimate. So then
cells recreate,
but there are already productive systems in place which allow them to recreate.
I know what you're
so it's always endless.
So you always end up with the argument that there was something before our universe began.
Precisely, yes.
Right. And then you're wondering what was that something?
Yeah, so that thing which we would, as a theist, sorry, go on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you would say that there was a God there.
So the Quran defines that.
Yeah.
The Quran says that, say He is Allah the One, the eternally besought of all. I mean, everybody needs Him. He begetteth not, neither is He begotten, and there is none like unto Him. Meaning nothing in creation is comparable to the Almighty. Nothing.
Well, quite frankly, if this God, I'm not being disrespectful.
No, that's fine.
If this God created the universe, I mean, He's outstanding. There is nothing like Him, you know?
Precisely.
You know?
And it makes sense because then He's not within this contingent set of things.
Yeah.
That, for example, existent.
Well,
me and you.
He's outside our realm of understanding.
Precisely.
Right.
Fantastic. But philosophically, the way we've broken it down, it makes sense. Something which is not within the contingent set of things. For example, me and you, we could have been born in South Africa, and we could be females as an example. It doesn't necessitate that we are the way it's supposed to be. So something has to be contingent outside the set of contingent things. So in essence, then that is the only uncontingent being. Otherwise, like I said, the infinite regress problem persists. So once we've established that there is that, that understanding of a creator, then as theists,
But there is a point where, again, where you're saying that for the universe to come into being, it was either created by someone or something, that there was a pre-universe.
Yes.
There had to be.
Yeah. Like a pre-existence, a meta which we can't comprehend.
But that's it.
Yes.
And that's where I am.
Right, but we do know, whatever it was, we know it was incomprehensible, although we know it must have happened because the fact that the universe came into existence, and the established science tells us that all these, everything that we encapsulate as a result of time, matter, space, energy.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Why do you feel the need to explain the creation of the universe by way of a God?
Okay, so then it necessitates for us that, having dismissed all the other possibilities, because obviously this is a question which is the number one question on earth, I would say.
Yeah, it is.
Let's be fair.
Yeah.
So then, having eliminated the other possibilities and the preposterous nature of the other possibilities, then by proxy it leads one to believe something so out of the universe, so unique and distinct from the universe, must have created it due to those other factors which we haven't spoken about, such as will and consciousness, for example. It must have had a conscious mind to it. It can't be an absence of absolutely anything has a mind. It doesn't make any sense at all. This being must be something so incomprehensible in terms of its majesty and power and might that it's beyond our realm. But because we know that because, again, the concept of a universe being created, from what? It has to be something which is outside of that contingent set of things which we've already discussed. Now, once we've established that, then we look on to the next step which we take as theists, is to understand that myself and yourself, 80 years ago, neither of us were here. In another unlikely...
You took a guess.
I'm not saying that, I was just being... So in another 80 years, neither of us are going to be here, more than likely. Okay? So what we say to that is that we are going to depart this earth. Okay? And for people who then mock and say, oh, a God who can recreate and judge us, nonsense. The fact we're here in our very selves is in itself testification that we can be brought back up, and our belief is that we will be resurrected and we will be accountable for our actions. We only have one life. So we must be then, as a matter of understanding, grateful to that Creator who's given us everything. If I was to offer you £50 million for your 2 eyes, would you take it? Highly unlikely. Unlikely. Okay. Now, you've been given
if I had a sick child and that would pay for his or her...
Yeah, that's right, yes.
I would
Yeah,
consider
well,
it.
there are certain... But in generality, you would say no chance. The air that we breathe, all precisely fine-tuned. We haven't spoken about the fine-tuned argument as well. But in essence, so everything is conducive to life, and the fact we also have a belief, the Arabic word is fitra, which means there is a innate disposition within each and every one of us that God has put to recognize Him, to contemplate, even if you're one who does not believe in a Creator. That inclination is still there for you to grapple with. And hence, when we reason and go into these realms of understanding, it then smacks totally of there being a Creator. It makes no sense that we as all the creation are created in jest, purposelessly, for no reason whatsoever. It makes perfect...
Not that we can understand.
Not that we can understand. And to that analogy, I like to give, for example, a mobile phone, the first ever mobile phone. And the viewers are now sick to death for probably me giving this analogy, but it makes sense because the first mobile phone ever made, if we never had a clue what it was, and I said to you, you could speak to someone, if I gave you this instrument from one end of the earth to the other, you would think, okay, it's interesting. And then I was to say, and you would say to me, okay, how? I'll give you the phone and I will say to you, operate it. What's the first thing you're going to ask me once I've given you the phone?
And I didn't know what a phone was.
Yep.
I would say,
give me the
how
clue.
to turn it on.
So what would you ask for? You'd ask for instructions, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Instruction sheet, a
instructions.
manual.
Yeah,
precisely.
okay. Yeah.
So that is what a manual is what God gives us as guidance to mankind. That I have created you, so like I said, its purpose, it doesn't make any sense, simply created us for no reason whatsoever, and just simply say, all right, get on with it, I'll see you in a few thousand years and I'll judge you, even though I'm not going to give you any guidance whatsoever.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, please do.
Would you not be content with the idea that it's all a happy accident?
No, because even, something, even randomness with itself has an order. And if you're saying again, it must be a happy accident, then you have to...
Well, happy for us, we're here.
Yeah,
we get to experience it.
No, of course, yeah. But what I mean in that sense, that is that the possibility of that is just too over. But we've already discussed that. Why I've felt and I've explained to you that's impossible. That's literally impossible because of the fact that all these particles or substances or electrons or protons or neutrons and particles coming in and out, they need something which is contingent upon something else, you see. So hence it would make no sense then for it to be simply random because it requires a conscious will. Everything in humanity tells us everything is contingent upon something else. And we've already discussed this in depth. So then, hence it makes more sense. There's something so beyond the universe, so powerful, so unique, which I've already defined to you, would be the one which we are referred to as a creator. So then we have to give gratitude to that creator. We have to give thanks to that creator as a one supreme being, unlike his creation. And hence, we are inviting people to understand who our creator is what we then follow the guidance, which is not just inclusive or rather exclusive to Islam. It can be to many people of many entities. So it's for everyone. And then God sends his revelation. And then the Quran claims to be the final revelation sent by God to mankind for the betterment for all of mankind. And that hence we think that we claim this is the only uncorrupted book of God. Why do we say that? Because it only comes from a singular source. We be from the Creator through the conduit of the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. Or God sent revelation to other prophets like Jesus, Moses, and so forth. Peace be upon them. And we say that as a mark of respect. But that revelation was only for a select people at a select time. It wasn't universal. The Quran claims to be a guidance for all mankind, for all of humanity, and hence it's unique. Its very word, Islam, is different from all the other world religions. Judaism, from the tribe of Judah, from the land of Judea, hence Judaism. Christianity, after Christ. Buddhism, after Buddha. Hinduism, from the river Indus. Islam in itself is unique. It means submission to the will of God. That is how one attains peace. To the one true God, who's unlike his creation. Not a man, not a woman, not an idol, not a statue. So that's what we then tell us. So for example, I'm speaking to you and you're listening attentively, and the fact you're even listening is the inclination within. Obviously there's a nice discourse as well taking place, but we're having that, it's an inclination. Like I said, the Arabic word is fitra, an inner understanding of our Creator, who is then calling us in different ways. Not a literal, we're not like Christians who believe some Holy Spirit has to come onto you and then you have to be guided without criticizing the Christian faith, but perverse ideas such as a man dying for the sins of mankind, God sending his only son to spill all his blood to die. That makes no sense. We say that if you commit error, you seek sincere repentance from God, and God then can forgive you. This is our concept of forgiveness. And salvation then for the hereafter would be to acknowledge your Creator, to live a life befitting as prescribed by your Creator. So worship does not simply just entail praying 5 times a day by bowing and prostrating. It also considers things such as saying a charitable word, or helping a needy person, or doing good deeds. This is also considered a worship. Earning an honest income is also an honest worship in itself. So God actually wants to mold us into beings which can be perfect, realizes we're imperfect, so we're prone to error. He's made us as such, and hence we then ask God for our, to forgive us if we transgress. So we've got to continue on that path, you see. First and foremost, acknowledgement of the Creator, and then leading a life according to that Creator's pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, well said.
Thank you.
Powerful words.
Thank you. I
well
appreciate your sentiments.
Yeah.
Can I offer you a free copy of the Quran in English? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. He's much faster than me. I hope I've given you few things to consider.
To think about. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I would also suggest that if you want to delve in it further, there are a couple of excellent YouTube channels. One which is referred to as the Muslim Metaphysician.
Okay.
Go on today, he's got some fantastic stuff. He's debated the top atheists in the world. Then we've got the another YouTube channel called Thought Adventure Podcast, where excellent cross understanding between atheists and theists takes place. So that's something you can go through at your own time and your own volition.
I'll do that.
And I've been really enjoying speaking to you. You're a gentleman. What's your name?
Richard.
Richard, God bless you.
What's your name?
Mustafa.
Mustafa.
Oh,
Nice to meet you.
Take care of yourself. Take care.